pass simultaneously. It does offer a lot of economic stimulus to the area. They're saying that all of their jobs that they're going to bring in will be benefited jobs. They're giving 25% of gross receipts to, I call it exploiting, or they're being exploited for 25% of the receipts to education and state parks and pet projects that that local community will have. So that is going in there. And there is a potential of $54 million of impact. That's a lot of impact to go to that state. So I really don't have a problem with that one. My problem is with 83, or with 82, because I think that they're going to limit our ability to have casinos in the future, even though they're going to get their casino. Any questions?
What if 82 doesn't pass and this one does pass?
Then it's null and void because they still don't have permission to happen. So if 82 does not pass, it doesn't matter what happens to 83. They cannot cite that casino. They have to have that amendment in the Constitution. Yes?
I haven't read it, I'm sorry. Have there been any figures put up? Because I know that they have to probably bring in about $4 million in order to make 25% to the municipal. But what I'm curious about is, have they done or put up, or I don't know, you've read the pros and cons, maybe I haven't, what the costs are? Because there's a lot of costs that go with this, because there's a lot of policing and a lot of other things that are likely to happen around this. So the pros and cons on this, has anybody put up the figures?
There are some figures, and you'll see in the voter pamphlet on the opposite side, you'll see some figures. But essentially, in my opinion, the 25%, depending on where they put that 25%, can't offset that police protection needed if that's where they put it. But, you know, that's an argument between, do we give that community higher police protection, or do we give that community better schools? And, you know, it's one labor union against another arguing for their own pocket, so I don't know where.
Well, the people who are putting it in are not from the United States. I think it's a Canadian company.
Yes.
Along the line here.
Yes.
Picked up, you know, in the airways, it's about all. You get bits and pieces.
Right.
You don't get anything whole, but, you know, a little of this and a little of that.
Yep.
So I'm not sure where the money actually ends up. That's the part that always bothers me about this kind of things is, you know, are we spending all the money, you know, protecting this group while this guy's making money?
Well, I mean, there's no doubt they would not go to the expense or the effort to try to put this on the ballot. This is not a cheap argument. If there was a potential for great revenues, they're telling you that they're going to give you 25% of their gross revenues. Is it gross? I think it is gross. So, I mean, there's a lot of money. That's after they adjust. Well, it's adjusted from their losings, from what they pay out, but not adjusted from their. So they declare what they pay a gambler is not part of their expenses of actually operating the casino. So what they're talking about is gross income minus whatever the payout is to those few that actually win money at the casino, okay? But it is gross before they take their operation, their expenses of, you know, employees and energy and those type of things. So it's not a true gross, but it is somewhat of a gross, I guess is the best way. It's not a true net, it's not a true gross, it's somewhere in between that they talk about that 25%. So.
Do you know if the controversy is still continuing about naming it the Grange? There was some opposition from
the Grange itself?
Real Grange, not wanting them to use that.
Yeah, so she asked if I know if there's been any discussion about naming it the Grange. I know that as a past Grange member, I figured that there was. I haven't followed that, but unless the Grange actually copyrighted their name, they're not going to win. But if they copyrighted it, they could argue that it's a copywritten name that's used in the state of Oregon. And
we got a brochure in the mail about this and saying to call or email a site, the National Grange, the farmers agriculture one, because they were very upset about it. So there is some.
Yeah, absolutely. They're trying to capitalize on that good feeling that the Grange brings. And what, I mean, all of you probably been or seen the Grange, because the first thing that I recognize as when I think of the Grange is I think of community, right? Isn't Isn't that what the Grange was about? Was about bringing together your community. And that was no accident that they named it the Grange.
It's awful.
So, all right. The next one, this is definitely an AFP major. This is the one I've spent a lot of time out talking to folks and details about. Many AFP members and many of you probably here helped us gather signatures to get this on. It's been a large coalition of folks to put the repeal of the death tax on here. And that's what Measure 84 is. It repeals Oregon's death tax. And that's a whole nother 45-minute presentation I can give you. But let me break it down into a synopsis of, essentially, it is Oregon, Washington, and Hawaii are the only 3 states left west of the Mississippi that have an estate tax. And we think it's really, really important to repeal it. We think it's one of the most perverse double taxation laws that you can have. If Californians are smart enough to repeal it, then we should be smart enough to repeal it. I hate to say that, but that's true. Because, in fact, all states had an estate tax in 2000. And it's been since 2000 that most states have realized the perverseness of that tax and the horrific impacts that it has on that on the tax on the states. So we are in support of this, repealing the death tax. I will tell you that there are a lot of comments. One of the things we did is, for those of you that have family-owned businesses, and this is strictly for family-owned businesses. This is not investment in the company. These are family-owned businesses that are impacted by this, and it's the transitioning over to that next generation. That is what Oregon is about. That is what Oregon has said time and time again that they want, is that small family business that can be innovative and entrepreneurial over and over again. So we want to repeal it. There was an additional aspect that we put in. So over 3 years, you will have, the death tax will be reduced by 25% until in 2016, there will in fact be no estate or death tax. And I am using estate tax and death tax interchangeably. The official name is estate tax, but I refer to it as the death tax, as most people know it. That's how most people refer to it. So it is important that we actually get this repealed. In addition to removal of the death tax, there is another clause that does eliminate capital gains on properties transferred from one family member to another. Now that was not by accident that we thought about that, because one of the most unstabilizing happenings in a family-owned business is the transfer of property and of that business after a person has died. So if we can actually encourage conversations to happen and to talk about where and how that transfer will happen ahead of time, we are creating stabler, long-term family businesses. And that is why it was important that that piece of the puzzle was included.